It's draft week, and we still have no idea where the Pittsburgh Steelers are going with pick 17. But it's not their fault that we have no idea what's about to happen. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Today, we're talking about pick 17. We are officially 6 days away from the first pick in the NFL draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers will wait until pick 17, although, a short-lived pipe dream of the Steelers trading up to 9 for Jalen Carter was out there. I have to say that the research I've done, the people I've talked to, that doesn't seem like a real possibility, and that Jalen Carter will be gone well before pick 9. So what do the Pittsburgh Steelers do? Where do they sit? Who is their favorite target? What positions do they have their eye on at pick 17? And truthfully, we have no idea. We have no idea what's about to happen. We have no idea what pick 17 is going to look like, or who the Pittsburgh Steelers are interested in, or who their top target is, or even what their top position is in the NFL draft. And it's very strange because in years past, we didn't have this situation. I can remember this is year 5 on the beat covering the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the 4 years prior to this, we've never had a draft where you didn't know where the Pittsburgh Steelers were going. You knew the direction. You might not have known the player. I mean, in some years you did. Najee Harris was a lock. A quarterback last year was a lock, but you didn't think it was going to be Kenny Pickett. Years past, TJ Watt, if he slid, knew that he was going to Pittsburgh. The Steelers knew they would have taken him. He was the best player on the board. You have these hints. You have these positions. You have these little targets here and there where you can make an educated guess. This year, we're just throwing stuff against a board and hoping it could stick because the Steelers have given us nothing. But truthfully, the Steelers have given us everything that they usually give us. The difference is where they sit, because 17, well, it's about as crazy as it gets. It's about as unknown as the NFL draft can possibly hand you. And at 17, you have a couple of decisions to make about where your talent level should be and what position and what players you feel comfortable enough putting into that group. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, it's everybody before them. You don't know if the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go with an offensive tackle or if they're going to go with the cornerback and Christian Gonzalez. You don't know if any wide receivers are going to go off the board or if people are going to neglect that position group and just leave it for the second round or later into the first. You don't know how many tackles are going to go. Is Broderick Jones going to be gone? Is Darnell Wright going to be gone? Is Paris Johnson going to be gone? Is Peter Skoronski going to be gone? You don't know what corners are going to be off the board. Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, both assuming lead top 10 picks, but you have no idea. Joey Porter Jr., is he the pick at 17 or is he going to be gone at 16 to the Washington Commanders? Does Deonte Banks actually hold enough ground to surpass both of them? And then you have a name like Tyreek Stevenson, who has crawled his way into the first round, and some are saying could be the Steelers' first round pick at 17. Then you have names like Brian Brzee, Darnell Wright, Darnell Washington. All these guys. Lucas Van Ness's name has been tossed out there. Nolan Smith has been tossed out there. Brian Branch has been tossed out there. The Steelers have done their homework on some wide receivers, and ESPN's Mel Kiper believes that Zay Flowers is somehow a lock at 17 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We just don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know what's going to happen because the rest of the draft is so crazy. But I can tell you this. If you connect the dots enough, this is what we do know. We know that the Steelers definitely have interest in offensive linemen and at cornerback. Those seem to be the top 2 positions that they have their eye on. If they're looking for a defensive tackle, it seems as if they're ready to take a swing at one with a guy like Brzee or a guy like Keanu Benton. Those bigger name first, second round guys that they've brought in for visits and they've shown they're interested. I mean, way back to when there were 2 names that the Steelers loved, it was Kelee Ringo and Brian Brzee. That's enough. You know that they love Keely Ringo, that they've done so much homework on Keely Ringo. You know that Joey Porter Jr. has the bloodline and the connections and the strengths and the athleticism and the testing to just say, hey, he is a 17th pick. He seems very bright for a 17th pick. We know that Jordan Addison told the Steelers to come get him, but then they stopped recruiting him. We know so much. We know that they canceled a pre-draft visit with DeJuan Jones, or at least that was canceled. We don't know the reason why. We know the same thing about Ringo's. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you that Keely Ringo and DeJuan Jones are on the same level, or did something happen with one and not the other? Did something happen with both? There are reports saying that DeJuan Jones and the Steelers are not necessarily on great terms right now because he didn't work out at his pro day and decided not to measure. We know that they're doing their homework on mid to late round wide receivers, more so than they're doing their homework on early round wide receivers. We know that when it comes to offensive linemen, yeah, they've looked at their left tackles. They've looked at their right tackles. They've also looked at a boatload of guards, a boatload of centers. And they definitely have interest on the interior as much, if not more, than the tackle position. We know that they brought some edge rushers in, but none of the guys that people have rumored to them in the first round. It's really just a crapshoot. That's what the Steelers have given us, is a crapshoot of a billion prospects in a billion different ways and with a billion surprises to come. So with the 17th pick in the draft, where do you see this? Where do the Pittsburgh Steelers stand right now? My latest mock draft has them taking Brian Brzee. Why? Because he seems to be the only constant. He seems to be the only one that has floated under the radar, who seems to be a legitimate 17th pick in the draft. You're not reaching for a guy. You're not falling for a guy. You're not worried about it. He seems to match the value of 17. On top of that, the Steelers have done as much homework on him as they've done with every other prospect that we have named at pick 17. The only difference is he doesn't fit the position of need that's highest for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A defensive tackle, what do? You come in here and you play behind Cam Hayward and play behind Larry Ogunjobi and hope that one of them retires or that there's a spot that clears up in the next couple of years? Not really a 17th overall pick type of selection there. Made sense for Jalen Carter because it's Jalen Carter. That's the best player in the draft. Doesn't make sense for the rest of them. I've heard that some within the Steelers organization absolutely love Joey Porter and want Joey Porter, but others want Deonte Banks and love Deonte Banks. Do either of them match the value at 17? And what if both of those guys are gone? Is it Tyreek Stevenson? And do you jump the gun that high? Because Ike Taylor's little, that little smirk that he gave when somebody said that he's a later round pick than the first round really indicates something. And I don't know how strong it is, and I don't know how guaranteed anything is, but I do know that Ike knows something. And he's had conversations with people high up, and he's leaked a little bit of that just in a facial expression. 6 days from now, the Pittsburgh Steelers will be making their first round pick. 6 days from now, the Steelers have an entire board created with every player for every position that they believe they could draft in. They have their entire plan laid out. They will look at every prospect and in 6 days have a finalized list that says, this is where we're going. This is our plan of attack. And this is what we're doing. And as crazy as it sounds, in all the smoke shows that the Steelers have put on in years past, or at least tried to, and, they've had some successful ones. The Kenny Pickett one was very successful, but in other years, they've tried and it just didn't work. There was just nothing there that said, oh, the Steelers got us this time. No, you knew what was coming, at least to some degree. And even last year, you knew that it was going to be a quarterback. We all just thought it was the wrong one. This year, they're not even trying. They're just doing their homework. They're just evaluating everybody. And maybe that's Omar Khan. Maybe that's Andy Wild just saying, hey, this is how we have to approach this if we're going to build it this way. This is the new way that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going about this. Maybe it's just how they've always gone about it. And we've just been so hyper-focused on certain positions that we've only approached those positions. But I don't think that the smokescreen is on them. I think they have just as much confusion as we do right now. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are sitting there and they're going, look at This is what we think is going to happen. And they obviously know more and have spoken to higher ups, and they got the intel. They got way more intel than anybody of us has. But I bet you that they're equally sitting there going, man, if this guy slides, this is our pick. But that's a big if. If this guy slides, that's our pick. But that's a big if. Well, if there's nobody here, this is the guy we're going to reach for. But man, that's a bit of a reach. These guys are the safe prospects, but do we go with safe here, or do we fill a position of need? We are 6 days away from the NFL draft. And in 6 days, the Steelers are going to make a pick, whether they want to or not, whether they're ready or not, whether we are all prepared or have any idea what direction they're going to go in or not. And I could say that right now, we have no idea. And it is exciting. But man, the NFL is a wild time right now because it's not the Pittsburgh Steelers trying to hide anything from us. It's just the fact that for the first time in a while, they sit in a draft pick where you just don't know what's going to happen and where they sit. I mean, maybe it's because we're not used to them picking this high that often, but it is a confusing place to be at pick 17.